It's Friday, April 23rd. We got a breaking news story in here in the Blanco Lirio Global Headquarters. Thanks to viewers sending this in. The word is that the Boeing 747 Global Super Air Tanker is ceasing operations and is being sold by its owners. Now, remember the 747 Global Supertanker we talked about quite a bit on this channel before. We've gotten tours of this aircraft. Remember, it had some teething problems getting on board with the U.S. Forest Service and getting approved for operations. The Forest Service has been allowing it to operate on a series of interim contracts, and it sounds to me, this is a developing story and it's a very confusing story. It sounds to me like this is a case where the technology has outpaced the bureaucratic and contracting capability of the U.S. Forest Service. When the U.S. Forest Service makes a contract for these air tankers, primarily they want that contract to be consider the safe and effective use of the retardant of the asset. And apparently the global supertanker has not been meeting some certain parameters of some of the U.S. Forest Service contracting, some of which is deals with other technologies. In other words, air tankers, smaller air tankers that can carry about 5,000 gallons of retardant. So this comes from Fire Aviation News, fireaviation.com. The investor group that owns the 747 Supertanker, Tanker 944, is shutting down the huge air tanker. In an email sent April 21 to officials in Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and the federal government, Dan Reese, the president of the global supertanker, gave them the news. This week, the investors that own the global supertanker just informed me that they have made the difficult decision to cease operations of the company effective this week. This is extremely disappointing as the aircraft has been configured and tuned with a new digital drop system and other upgrades to make it more safe and efficient. Now, I don't know if these new digital upgrades have been field tested, and if the global supertanker is now meeting the parameters of the U.S. Forest Service contract. But let's read some more here. Mr. Reese said that they are in discussions with prospective buyers, but they don't know whether it's going to be continued to be used as an air tanker or a freighter. And of course, the company employees that we met in the video have been furloughed. And I've got some feelers out to some of those folks to see if they can shed some light on the current situation of the global supertanker. And here's what we got from the Forest Service. The Interagency Air Tanker Subcommittee does not support any further interim approvals. In other words, they've been approving the use of the 747 on a temporary or interim basis each year, without correcting some issues originally identified in the 2009 test of the system that included the failure to meet coverage level 3 and 6. Aerial retardant is measured in coverage levels. Coverage level 3 means 3 gallons per 100 square feet of ground. You want that retardant to rain down at a certain volume, and you want to be able to adjust this volume for the various vegetation. As a former lead plane pilot, I'd tell you that's, and I had a fire in these trees, I'd probably want something like coverage level 6 or 8 gallons of retardant per 100 square feet of terrain. So it sounds like the 747 was unable to perform coverage level 3 and 6 drops, which sounds unusual. They could get everything in between. The other issue is retention of retardant in the system after the drop. According to Forest Service contract, they want that retardant tanked system to be empty when they are done dropping. And this is also for safety concerns. They want all of that weight out of the aircraft so they can climb out of the whatever condition that they're dropping in. Also, aeration of the retardant causing trail off. Now remember, we talked about this in those 747 updates. That tank system, pressurized tank system in the 747, does have a tendency to trail off, and I'll have to go back and review the video myself to refresh my memory on why that was. And there was the pitching of the aircraft in order to get that to trail off to minimize. But what the Forest Service wants is a clean cutoff of the retardant, and they don't want it trailing off long after the drop. They want to get the retardant on target. They don't want it drifting off into areas that they don't want that retardant to be drifting off into. And inconsistent flight profiles affecting retardant coverage. They want that coverage level consistent throughout the entire drop. So apparently those were some of the contractual issues that the 747 was not quite meeting, but they went ahead and approved the aircraft anyways. Now, due to the current national situation regarding the coronavirus, the Interagency Air Tanker Subcommittee will issue an 8th interim approval. However, they will not issue a 9th interim approval until the aircraft successfully passes all the requirements for the 2013 contract in capability, and all this had to have been done by December 31st of 2020. So it sounds like the aircraft has not rectified all those minor deficiencies in its drop system. Now, just to add confusion to the story, we asked the Forest Service for a comment on the demise of the 747. Quote, the USDA Forest Service is aware of this vendor's decision, said Stanton Floria, Fire Communications Specialist for the agency. Quote, the Global Supertanker is on a call when needed CWN contract for aerial wildland fire suppression. Well, are they on contract this year? Are they talking about this year? Or was that last year's data? What's going on with the 747? Are they on or are they off for this year? Now, the 747 itself is just another tool in the toolbox. It's not going to save the world just because it's a 747 and has 17,000 gallons of retardant. It's a specific job for a specific mission, and its expertise is the ability to quickly respond to fires all around the world and drop a whole lot of retardant along a very long and relatively straight retardant line. A lot of these wildfires out west require aircraft that can maneuver in very tight places and do very specific drops. That is not the job of the 747. And again, remember, the safe and effective use of aerial fire retardant is just that. It's only to retard or slow the spread of the fire, to allow the ground forces on the ground the time that they need to build a proper fire line around the fire. Air tankers do not necessarily put out fires themselves. It's just another tool in the larger firefighting system. So, clear as mud. If you know any information or can post any information in the comment section as to what's going on with the 747 this year, we'd like to know. Thank you for your support. We'll see you here.